All right, so let's talk about the performance-based SR. We're already starting to sort of see cracks in the system and how it works, and this is sort of like I predicted. Like I was open to giving them the chance and like cautious about it, and uh, that sort of worry that I have was then validated by what I was seeing. Uh, the game doesn't understand what is necessarily a good play and a bad play. It doesn't understand who really helped secure the win versus who was just sort of farming the stats, right? Uh, there's a lot of different ways to win in this game in which you can provide value, in which you might not secure any kills, right? If you, uh, if you pull out two defensive ults, you're going to get 0 kills, right? But you will have set up your teammates for the next fight for them to secure kills and secure the objective. So on paper, on the scoreboard, it's going to look like you didn't do a whole lot that game. But if you just kept using your ult to specifically pull out the defensive ults, that will punish you. The system then punishes you. And for someone like Psylocke, that is actually something that I will do, right? My ult is not super great, but if I had like a Star-Lord on my team, his ult is better. So if I know that they have defensive ults, I will specifically use my ult to pull out those ults, so he can have an easier time securing kills, right? But this system then directly punishes me for having that playstyle and making that decision. It then makes me want to play as a selfish player and play heroes that are either better at securing kills or let somebody else use their ult in an inoptimal way in order for me to selfishly try and use my ult to secure kills. Uh, so yeah, this also means that this benefits certain heroes more than others, right? You know, your Hellas and your Hawkeyes and your Punishers, the people who can output a lot of damage and secure kills very easily and consistently, are going to be the better heroes to pick, right? Because you will naturally more easily uh, secure more kills and lower the amount of SR that you get for losses and increase the amount of SR you get for wins. Uh, and, the game is about objectives, not just about securing kills. Securing kills are a great way to maintain control over the objective, but it's not the entire thing. And the other problem with this is that it also doesn't take into consideration deaths that I've noted. I've had people on my team who were Punishers where they had 50 KOs and they had like 30 final hits at the end of the game and they got SVP in the loss. But they also had like 23 deaths, right? So it's like they were securing kills, but they were always dead off a cooldown so much that we couldn't maintain control over the objective. So we ultimately would lose. But they would lose like, 16 for the loss, and the rest of us would lose like 24, 28. Like, on the tanks, as tank, I've lost 28 as a tank before when I'm controlling space, but I can't do anything because of the fact that my DPS are dead off a cooldown. Like, this is sort of the problem in performance-based SR is that there is no way to program or use any sort of AI as like some sort of magical tool to figure out who has had an impact on the game, who has had the greatest impact on the game. It is just a stat farming tool now, right? And that's how people are then going to exploit the system because none of them, instead of people trying to focus on, hey, how do we win this game? They're focused on playing selfishly and just trying to farm their stats the best they can and play the characters that will farm those stats. So that way they don't lose as much SR as they gain. And, so this means that people are going to naturally want to play heroes like Hawkeye and heroes like Scarlet Witch who have a more unique niche aren't going to be played as much. And I've felt it for sure as Captain America, where I have been punished for playing the style that I've played with Captain America, where it is an extremely effective play style that has helped me win a ton of games. But because of the fact that I don't get high damage and I don't get high elims and I don't get high kills, even though I'm winning games, if I lose a game, I am extremely punished for the fact that I didn't get a lot of kills. Even if it was a close game, I'm still punished for the fact that, oh, well, you didn't do a lot of damage, so you must not have had an impact, which just is not the case. Which leads me to my next point, which is just it stifles player expression, creative player expression, right? The game is not just about farming kills. And there's more than one way to win the game. And you could do that through pulling attention. You can do that through distraction. You can do that through, focusing on pulling out resources or assisting your team. There's a lot of different ways in which you can win a game that is not just based off of trying to farm kills. And especially in hero-based shooters where you have people who have low damage, like Scarlet Witch, uh, that it, it ultimately just is motivating players to play a certain way. And I don't like that. I don't like the fact that we're telling people, hey, don't play the heroes that you enjoy because it's not beneficial to you. It's the same for supports, right? A lot of people have found that playing strategist leads you less SR for your gains, and it benefits certain supports more than others, right? Because there are certain strategists who who do a lot of damage, can help secure a lot of kills, and also can do a lot of healing. So therefore, they benefit from the system greater than the supports who might focus more on healing. And here's the thing: is that yes, you want to be part of kills as often as you can, even as a strategist, but the problem is that each rank needs to be played differently. You need to adapt to the ranks as you rank up. And this means that in the lower ranks, some people aren't going to understand or even feel what some streamers are talking about. They're like, wait, well, I get plenty for my wins, but I don't get a whole lot for my losses. Like, right, but the game that you're playing in lower elo is going to be different than the game you're playing in higher elo. If you try to heal bot in lower elo games, you might not win as many games. But if you tried to do more damage than you did heal in like a top 500 game, you'd probably end up losing it because of the fact that as you adapt and you get higher in rank, you need to change your play style. And the supports in lower elo or versus higher elo like are played completely differently. In higher elo, you have to heal more than you do damage. That's just how it is. But because of the way that the system is set up, that if you're not part of those kills, if you're not part of the damage or the final hits, even as a strategist, you are directly punished for this system, right? I don't even necessarily think that it's the meta or anything like that of, saying that like, oh, because of like dive or anything like that, strategist isn't fun. It's not motivating to play. I still like going up against dive heroes, even as a strategist. But I can't lie and say that the system isn't punishing if you're a tank player or a strategist player when it comes to the SR games. And the other problem is the fact that like, when we're talking about good performance, like what is a good performance, right? Like how I define a good performance versus how you define a good performance versus how NetEase defines a good performance is going to be entirely different definitions. And where in the game can we look to see some sort of information that tells us, okay, hey, this is what it's defined as good performance? We don't have that, right? So all of us are left guessing, and we're trying to then basically figure out what works and what doesn't. We're trying to game the system instead of trying to figure out strategically how to win the game. That's the problem, right? We're not playing to win anymore. Now we're playing to try and game the system, and that's not fun. People are focusing on all of like, the worst aspects of competitive gaming, and it's just going to make the game a lot less fun, not because of the fact that the game isn't fun, but because we don't understand the system and it's confusing and we don't know how to play around it, right? I don't even think necessarily them telling us what they think is good performance is the right way to go. Like, I don't want to know what you define as good performance because of the fact that good performance can vary heavily, between the ranks. What I would like to see instead is a game that is more based off of wins than off of performance, right? I'm still down for the idea of having placement matches, and then on top of that, if a player starts to win a lot, give them a sort of winning multiplier, right? So that way, people who don't belong at a rank will help get out of that rank faster. First win 25, second win 26, third win 28, so on and so on. Something like that. So that way, as you start to win more, you start to gain more SR, so it starts to rush you through the ranks that it doesn't feel you belong at. But after you lose, it doesn't go right back to 1. It starts to chip back away a little bit from there. But, reward people who win games. Reward people who know how to create that, create those opportunities for their team to win. Because, to people who play this game and play it a lot, they understand that, like, there's more to the game than just getting kills. There's more to the game than just farming damage. It's all about sort of how you play together as a team and what you can do to help influence and make it easier for your team to win. You are one cog in this machine, working out of 6 total players, right? You need to have an impact in these games. You need to show how consistently across the board through different teams that you can change it up and do what the team needs and not just game the system by farming damage or farming kills. Because to those players who get, climb and get to the higher ranks and stuff, they're going to find that they're punished for playing tank properly by just creating space and helping enable their DPS, like their Psylocks and their Hawkeyes and their Hellas, because those tanks aren't going to have a whole lot of burst damage in order to secure kills in the same way that those players could. But the fact that they won by staying alive and controlling that space isn't going to be shown in the system. Even through objective time, I haven't seen it done well enough in a way that has benefited tanks more than has benefited DPS. I had a tank game last night where legitimately my DPS were dead off cooldown. I had 3 deaths, they had 12 and 15. And we could not push the 3rd point on Midtown, and we managed to, hold them from capping the 2nd point. And it was all because of the fact that I didn't die as cap and I stalled out that convoy like I do in my videos all the time. And I kept us in the game despite the fact that they kept dying over and over again. They would come out and die and come out and die, and I was able to stall and pull out enough time that we were able to win the game. Me and the allied tank got the least amount of SR in the entire game. Everyone else on our team got more SR than we did, despite the fact that they were dead non-stop. And this is what I mean is that, like, yes, I'm still getting points for winning, right? But if that strategy fails, I'll get deducted 28 points for not doing enough damage as tank. But if I win 24 points for the fact that I was able to control that space. But my DPS, who have 15 deaths, are going to get like 28 points because they farm damage. This is sort of the flaws in this system, and this is the reason why all games eventually just go away from performance-based SR to, match-based, win-based SR, because there's so many more nuanced things that happen not just in the game but between the ranks that you can't account for. There's no way to program for it. Like, from a developer standpoint, there is no way to understand all of these little details. So, while this might benefit some people, it is ultimately going to cause the problem of, like, inflation and make it far worse, right? That, those worries that people have about players getting up to ranks where they don't belong, this system is going to be one of those things that will actually cause that problem, make it worse, because of the fact that now they can directly game the system instead of focusing on the objective and doing what it takes to win, right? So yeah, that's just all I have to say on this. Like, I'm still hoping that NetEase recognizes this and sees that, like, oh, okay, this is a bad idea, because there's a lot of other nuanced things here that we can take into consideration. And, I'm still hoping that one day we do placement matches. I can see how, like, a system like this might benefit, players, I would say, like, from bronze up until diamond, maybe, because during that time, especially for alt players, players who are good at the game, you're going to be able to rise the ranks just through kills alone. But once you get into the higher rank games, it cannot be based off of something like damage or kills, because there's so many more things taken into consideration. You don't solo carry a game in the top 1%. You merely try to have an impact in which you can help benefit your team. But yeah, I understand why it's there, because when you start everyone at bronze or you have rank resets, you have to have something to rush people through these ranks to get them out of there faster. But ultimately, in the end, it's going to cause more problems than it is going to help. And I hope that NetEase recognizes this and they see that, like, oh, okay, maybe this wasn't a good idea, and we go towards more of like a a win-based system, you know, something that rewards players who have consistent wins versus players who have consistent kills, right? Or at the very least, give people a deduction if they die a bunch, right? Because that's not helpful. Uh, but yeah, I don't know. Those are just my thoughts on performance-based SR so far. Like, I know that other creators are going to have similar feelings, especially like the higher up you climb, the more it's going to feel this way. Um, and I worry people trying to game the system rather than try and play strategically. Because as a player who plays strategically and doesn't necessarily, you know, farm the damage, like I'll still win games, I'll still climb, but it is a lot more frustrating when you don't understand exactly what variables there are that are being, you know, judged, right? Uh, so yeah, I don't know. I hope they change it. I don't know if other people feel the same or if people actually like this system, but um, I, as a player who tries to enable his team and tries to do what is best to help his team, so we win as a team instead of trying to solo carry every game. Uh, this this is not a system that benefits me. This is not a system that benefits the team player. This is the system that benefits the selfish player, and that ultimately I think is going to cause problems long term. But I don't know. We'll see. I guess there's still time for me to play more of this season and figure it out. But you know, if people like this season, you know, let me know in the comments. If you have issues with it, let me know. But yeah, I definitely see how this can punish tank and strategist players just through the SR system. Yeah, I don't know. If you like it, let me know in the comments and just tell me what you feel I might have missed.